Buck Jones, born in Vincennes, Indiana, December 12, 1891 as Charles Frederick Gebhart, to Charles Frederick Gebhart, and Evelyn Retta Showers. He was an American motion picture star, known for his work in many popular Western movies. In his early film appearances, he was credited as Charles Jones. In 1907 he joined the United States Army a month after his 16th birthday. His mother had signed a consent form that gave his age as 18. Which is why you may find a discrepancy in his date of birth. In some of his history, he was assigned to Troop G, 6th Cavalry Regiment, and was deployed to the Philippines in October 1907, where he served in combat and was wounded during the Moro Rebellion. Upon his return to the U.S. in December 1909, he was honorably discharged at Fort McDowell, California. Jones had affection for race cars and the racing industry and became close friends with early driver Harry Stillman. Through his association with Stillman he began working extensively as a test driver for the Marmon Motor Car Company. Yet by October 1910 he had re-enlisted in the United States Army. Because he wanted to learn to fly, he requested a transfer to the Aeronautical Division, U.S. Signal Corps in 1913, without knowing that only an officer could become a pilot. He received his second honorable discharge from the Army in October 1913. Following his military service he began working as a cowboy on the 101 Ranch near Bliss, Oklahoma. While attending equestrian shows he met Odile Dell Osborne, who rode horses professionally. The two became involved and married in 1915. Both had very little money, so the producers of a Wild West show they were working on at the time offered to allow them to marry in an actual show performance, in public, which they accepted. While in Los Angeles, and with his wife pregnant with their first child, Maxine Evelyn Jones, Jones decided to leave the cowboy life behind and get a job in the film industry. He was hired by Universal Pictures for $5 per day as a bid player and stuntman. He later worked for Kenyon Pictures, then Fox Film Corporation, eventually earning $40 per week as a stuntman. With Fox his salary increased to $150 per week, and company owner William Fox decided to use him as a backup to Tom Mix. This led to his first starring role, The Last Straw, released in 1920. In 1925 Jones made 3 films with a very young Carole Lombard, whose career was cut short. When she died in a plane crash in 1942, she was only 33 years old. Buck Jones had more than 160 film credits to his name by this time and had joined Hoot Gibson, Tom Mix, and Ken Maynard as the top cowboy actors of the day. By 1928 he formed his own production company, but his independently produced film The Big Hop, a non-Western, failed. He then organized a touring Wild West show, with himself as a featured attraction, but this expensive venture also failed due to the faltering economy of late 1929. With the new talking pictures replacing silent films as a national pastime, outdoor westerns fell out of favor briefly. The major studios weren't interested in hiring Buck Jones. He signed with Columbia Pictures, then just a lowly B-picture studio, starring in westerns for $300 a week, a fraction of his top salary in the silent film days. His voice, a rugged baritone, recorded well and the films were very successful, re-establishing him as a major movie name. During the 1930s he starred in western features and serials for Columbia and Universal Pictures. His star waned in the late 1930s when singing cowboys became the rage and Jones, then in his late 40s, was uncomfortably cast in conventional leading man roles. Buck Jones had starred in countless major movies and TV series. He rejoined Columbia in the fall of 1940, starring in the serial White Eagle, an expansion of his 1932 feature of the same name. The new serial was a hit and Jones was again re-established.
The boss is dead wrong. The peace treaty is going through.
Well, suppose it does. It's got to reach Washington to be any good, don't it?
Hey, we ain't tackling no government troops.
We won't have to. They'll send that treaty by messenger. You wait and see.
I'm taking my command back to Fort Harvey. I'm entrusting the newly signed treaty to you, and it's essential that it reaches Washington at the first possible moment.
I understand, General. I'll undertake to get the treaty on the next Pony Express that leaves Coyote Springs. A White Eagle!
Well, you got her done, White Eagle, and I'm mighty proud of you.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the government, I want to thank you for your successful efforts for peace. Without your help, we never would have arrived at a fair understanding.
Oh, it was nothing, General. Though I was educated in the way of the whites. The Indians are my people, and I have their interest deep in my heart.
My brother White Eagle understands the hearts of the red man and the whites alike. His word is sacred to my people.
We better get started. Pony Express waits for no man.
His final series of Western features, co-produced by Jones and his friend Scott R. Dunlap of Monogram Pictures, featured the Rough Riders trio, Buck Jones, Tim McCoy, and Raymond Hatton. In 1937 Jones starred in Hoofbeats, a 15-minute radio program syndicated via electrical transcription. The program was produced in the studios of Recordings Incorporated, with Grape Nuts Flakes as sponsor.
Howdy, folks. You'll be mighty glad to hear, I reckon, that the makers of Grape Nuts Flakes, that's America's most famous cereal in flake form, are going to bring you America's most famous cowboy. Hard-riding, hard-hitting, hard-to-beat, everybody's favorite, Buck Jones.
Buck Jones lent his name and likeness to various product endorsements, including Post Grape Nuts Flakes, his radio sponsor, and Daisy Outdoor Products. His licensing also extended to the Big Little Book series, for example. Jones was also a consultant for Daisy, which issued a Daisy Buck Jones model pump-action air rifle. Incorporating a compass and a sundial into the stock, it was one of Daisy's top-end air rifles and sold well for several years. There was some confusion decades later with the release of the film A Christmas Story, due to author Gene Shepard's erroneous recollection that the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun had a compass and sundial in the stock. The BB gun never had them except for the two specially made for the film. Buck Jones was one of the 492 victims of the Coconut Grove fire, on November 28, 1942. Coconut Grove was a very popular nightclub in Boston, Massachusetts. Buck Jones died 2 days after the fire, on November 30, at age 50. On the night of the tragic Coconut Grove fire, a large number of guests and close friends were at the club for a combination testimonial dinner in honor of Buck, and a promotional event for his Rough Rider series for Monogram Pictures. Although the story is that Jones managed to escape the fire, but returned back inside to help rescue people, the truth is that he was trapped inside along with all the others, and never made it out. His body had been so badly burned in the Coconut Grove fire, that skin from his fingers had been pulled off, onto the fingerprint card, sent to the technical section of the FBI's Identification Division. It took nearly 48 hours to identify the prints, because so many fingers had to be searched in so many different places. The club owner Barney Welensky was charged with manslaughter, and found guilty.